All right, so I want to welcome us to today's morning analysis. Today is Wednesday, the 18th of September, 2024. Now, there are a lot of fundamental events today, though they're all packed in the afternoon, the afternoon session. But this morning, the data that is required, that is uh, available has been released already. That's the CPI from the United Kingdom. But then the actual came out equal to the forecast. The forecast was 2.2%. Actual came out as 2.2%. So that is not really causing much impact in the market. But then the next event will be by 1:30 p.m. That will be building permits from the United States. Then 3:30 p.m. that will be crude oil inventory, and 7 p.m. that will be FOMC. Now the main event today is this FOMC. That's the federal funds rate, FOMC economic projection, FOMC statement, FOMC press release. This whole dollar event here is the key event for today. And that will be left for the afternoon session. Whoever is handling the afternoon session may talk more about that. It's beyond what I'm handling this morning, but then we'll still say a few things about it. Now, FOMC is Federal Open Market Committee. That's a committee within the Federal Reserve in the US. The Federal Reserve is the central bank of the United States, and the Federal Open Market Committee is a committee within the central bank, which is the Federal Reserve of the US, which determines the interest rate. Either there's going to be an interest rate increase, which is called interest rate hike, or a reduction in the interest rate, which is called the interest rate, cut. So that committee decides on that. So generally, the news is on interest rates, and interest rate is one of the major economic indicators in the FX market. Now, the day this data is released, it's possible, not even just the day, the week preceding the release of this data, usually the dollar may be on the quiet side. And that's maybe one of the reasons why you've seen that since Monday, there's been a kind of a quietness in the market. Many times this data is just is the next most important data after the NFP. You have the NFP, the FOMC, these two major events can go a long way in determining what happens to the dollar in the long term. So it's possible there's still some quietness in the morning today before the release of this data later in the evening, which is 7 p.m. So I'm saying all these things so that in case you see that there's a kind of a range, you take caution. It's not all the time. The market is always volatile. Volatility sometimes can depend on the fundamental event that is to be released. If there's volatility on some other pairs that is not dollar-based, yes, you may trade. But for the dollar, I will encourage you to trade with a lot of caution today, especially before the release of the data. All right, so that being said, I'll flip over to MetaTrader so that we can take a look at the other technical setup that we have for today. Now, like I said, the data has been released for the UK, the FOMC, sorry, all the data again, the CPI has been released, which didn't cause much impact in the market. But aside that, there's a technical sector that has been building up on this instrument for quite some time. If you look at GBP AUD on the monthly time frame, you clearly see that price, is the price is trading around a resistance level on the monthly time frame, and currently price just retraced back to test that monthly resistance, which may lead to a further bearish breakout. Now, if you go down to the weekly, we can still see that price is trying to make its way down after hitting that resistance on the weekly. And from the weekly time frame, you can clearly see that this is looking a lot like it's trying to form a double top pattern, which might give us, a big decline, all things being equal. And going down to daily, this is what we have on the daily. Now, on the daily time frame, now don't forget that this is the double top that is being formed on the weekly time frame, which will lead to a bearish breakout. And on the daily, we are equally seeing the formation of a shoulder, a head, a second shoulder, which is expected to give also another form of a decline. So we're seeing a decline in many instances around this instrument. And finally, we'll switch over to the 4-hour, and this is the head, shoulder, a second shoulder. Now, this region here is the neckline, and price has broken out below the neckline. Now, what I will say is that I'll give you a sell stop order below the tip of this candle here, because price has clearly broken the neckline. Price has broken the neckline, retraced. We expect a continuation. So I believe price is expected to continue at least to the next support level. So I have a bearish outlook on the GBP AUD. So again, this is a shoulder, head, second shoulder. Price broke the neckline, retraced a little, then I expect a continuation to the next support level. So that's my outlook on the GBP AUD. It's a 4-hour setup, so it's a swing. So I would say more for those who are swing traders. Now, there isn't much, we don't have much setup today. Market is just very, very quiet. But then we can still pick a few setups, anticipating there could be some movement on it as we plan to have the FOMC later today. Now, for the Eurocard is another pair I'm looking at closely. For the Eurocard, on the daily time frame, we can clearly see that yesterday closed, with a rejection candle up there. And we can draw a trend line, a resistance rather. We have a resistance there. And the tip of the rejection candle, is touching that resistance. That's an indication of a possible decline on Eurocard. And also, we can still draw a trend line that connects these three, together, giving us a descending trend line. So that gives us a confluence where we expect a bearish continuation on this instrument. So we have a confluence, we have a rejection candle, a resistance, and a trend line, all pointing downwards on the Eurocard. If we flip down to the 1-hour time frame, this is what we'll have. We can see we have a shoulder, a head, a second shoulder, and the next thing we should expect is a decline, from that region downwards. So I hold a bearish outlook on the Eurocard. Now, I'll be looking at an entry below the tip of the neckline, just below that tip over there. And from there, I will expect, a decline on Eurocard. So I have a bearish outlook on the Eurocard. And finally, I have also a bearish outlook on the BTC. Now, I want to sound a word of caution in BTC. Make sure, if you want to trade BTC, make sure you have enough liquidity as you have a sizable account, because if your account is low, BTC can be volatile. If you have a low account, please don't go near BTC. So people with a reasonable size account. Now, this is my outlook for BTC USD. On the daily time frame, we can clearly see. Okay, let me start it all over so that we get the drill. On the daily time frame, we can see there is a descending trend line. Price is trending downwards. So we expect a continuation. That's the trend. The trend is downward, is a downward trend. If you flip down to the 4-hour, on the 4-hour time frame, now I can clearly see there's a rejection candle here, and that rejection candle coincides with the resistance over there. So that is forming a kind of a resistance level. Now, at the closer look, also, I discovered that this is not just a resistance level. I'm seeing an additional confirmation that we equally have a psychological level there. So that's a double reason. That's a confluence. So we have a downward trend line, we have a resistance and a psychological level, both indicating that we should expect a decline, in this instrument. And furthermore, the previous 4-hour candle, which is this one, is equally a rejection candle, which is giving us a view of the possibility of a decline. It's a rejection candle around, there's a resistance here. If you flip down to 1 hour, you see it. It's a rejection candle. So everything is pointing out towards, the possibility of a bearish movement on this instrument. So let me go back to 4-hour. So on the 4-hour, I can still further draw a trend line right here. And another one at the back to give us a rising wedge pattern. The rising wedge pattern is equally, a bearish pattern. So we have more than enough reasons to have a bearish outlook on this instrument. And finally, we can draw our Fibonacci, to try to capture our entries and take profit levels. All right, so our entry could be on Fibonacci 23.6, which is this region here. And we can ride the trend downwards to Fibonacci 38.2, 50, or 61.8 as required. So I hold a bearish outlook on the BTC USD. All right, so that's all I have this morning. 3 instruments. Those are the setup I can find. GBP AUD, Euro CAD, and the BTC USD. All of them, bearish trend. For the GBP AUD is a 4-hour setup. It's a swing setup. For the Euro CAD is a 1-hour setup. And for the BTC is a 4-hour. I'll emphasize again, please, this BTC is not for day traders. It can be extremely volatile, and it's not for a small account, for those with a reasonably sized account. And even if you are trading BTC, make sure you don't go beyond 0.01, no matter the account you are using. Don't exceed 0.01 lots. All right, so that'll be all from my end this morning. I will take a few questions and we'll close. Euro USD, GBP, Euro USD, and gold. Okay, let's take a look. All right, so just a resistance. We have a resistance on the daily time frame. Okay, good. We have a resistance on the daily time frame and a head and shoulder forming on 1 hour, which may lead to a decline on Euro USD. So we have a possible bearish breakout on the Euro USD. So that person should take note of that. Then finally, for gold, gold is not giving me a clarity for a sell yet. There are other parameters that are not, that I cannot find yet on gold. Though, if you want to look at it from one angle, we have this trend line right from the daily time frame. It's actually trading within the rising wedge pattern, It's a rising wedge, and it's done is higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. The next wedge should be down, but we just need more valid reasons why we should, have a downward movement. The candle yesterday, do we call this looks a little like it looks like a morning star. This tree looks like a morning star. So let's go lower if we can get a possible entry. No, I'm not seeing clarity for an entry now. What I think may happen to gold is this. Price may have to go back up to hit this trend line before we see a decline. From the technical, perspective, that's what I perceive may happen to gold. Price may need to pull up there then before it drops. So that's it may pull up to form a kind of a double top, then it will not give a very, very perfect drop, all things being equal. So that's what I can say about gold. I said GBP AUD is a swing setup. We're looking to sell GBP AUD. It's a swing setup. And I gave EuroCAD. GBP AUD is bearish and is a swing setup. EuroCAD is bearish, is a 1 hour setup. BTC USD is bearish, it's equally a swing setup. So somebody asked about Euro USD, that is bearish on 1 hour. All right, so I think that's all. I'm not having further questions. All right, so that's all this morning. Please trade safe and have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, sir.